We begin with breaking news tonight. Police say a man stabbed and assaulted at least 4 people.
Video of the incident shows the woman pushed onto the tracks.
Police say the victim was hit in the head with a large pole.
Security footage captures a drug-fueled rage in Nanaimo.
I don't understand how our justice system can allow him to be out walking the streets. My son should never have been murdered.
Hi, I'm Nat, and today I want to talk about a new documentary that came out just this past Wednesday called Canada is Dying. It was made by documentarian and independent journalist Aaron Gunn, who is originally from Vancouver, BC, and he did release a documentary last year called Vancouver is Dying, so this is kind of like a follow-up to that one. In both documentaries, he covers the issues surrounding mental illness, drug addiction, and the solutions, or the bad solutions, that the government have come up with. At least in the latest documentary, he does cover some potential solutions that the province of Alberta is trying to implement but hasn't fully implemented yet. However, it mainly focuses on how drug addiction can ravage through a city and end up with terrible high-rising crimes, especially stranger attacks. And he also talks to family members of people that have been killed by strangers and who feel like they haven't really received much justice, because he covers the whole justice system that we have in Canada that is, for lack of a better word, broken.
Security footage captures a drug-fueled rage in Nanaimo.
The police got him, and the cop said he'll be out just after he goes to court in the morning after breakfast.
I was just seeing familiar faces in the criminal justice system, and frustrating aspect was they were continually being released.
In it, he talks to members of the police force and also retired police officers who really paint a picture of how it is to police cities like Vancouver, where even if you apprehend a criminal, he will probably get out before you're done eating breakfast. And he and his experts go on to explain how, under Justin Trudeau and a lot of the liberal policies he's passed, and very progressive policies he's passed, the criminal justice system in Canada has basically just become the bigotry of low expectations, where people, based on their skin color or maybe their background, are given lesser sentences or even just let out from doing crimes, and sometimes strings of crimes totaling up to 50 and 60 in their lifetimes, just because the government thinks that because of their circumstance, they should be allowed to continue doing the crimes they do. But it is also with the drug policies that have been implemented in Canada in the past 20 years that the bigotry of low expectations keeps showing up. Because I think that a lot of those that pass laws and that are concerned about the drug addiction problem probably don't know any addicts themselves and will probably have never done any drugs themselves.
We will be able to reduce the stigma.
We're having good conversations with British Columbia about something they want to do there.
But they're specifically calling for decriminalizing drugs.
Yes, they are.
This is the first day, and I'm going to buy some cocaine. I don't even know. I haven't even really looked at the menus.
What we're doing now is almost capital punishment in our streets by neglect.
Because, and as the documentary highlights, not just by talking to doctors, but to addicts themselves, having such a low expectation that all a drug addict needs is just cleaner drugs instead of rehabilitation or support, or maybe a community that they can be a part of and contribute to, well, just giving a safe supply of drugs will get people either addicted to those drugs or selling them off to buy the actual drugs that they want. The documentary goes on to highlight how this happens, and it's happening to very young kids as well. All of these safe supply drugs are starting to get into schools where children will either trade them or start to get addicted on those and then go on to do harsher drugs. And not looking at the whole situation and not thinking that all of these addicts or most of these addicts could maybe be helped and rehabilitated and given a community and a duty to perform and to give them some sense of meaning. No, the government says, let's just keep giving them drugs, let's just keep feeding the crisis, and then, well, maybe we'll, as we said yesterday, call in the maid service and euthanize them all. That seems to be the only solution that the government is starting to come up with, other than truly helping the people that they pretend to care about. As I've mentioned before, there's a lot of these non-for-profit, non-governmental advocacy organizations that if the problem wasn't there, they'd have nothing to do, and they'd have no money flowing through, and they'd have no income for themselves. So instead of really fixing the problem, all they want to do is just patch it up to continue being useful to society. So the government just keeps putting band-aids on all of these problems, but not really solving them. We've also seen in Vancouver, for example, that the whole housing issue and the solution that, all addicts need is housing, is actually just turning profits for those that advocate for those solutions but never really materialize. The CEO of BC Housing, Shane Ramsay, had to recently step down because it turns out that he was using his wife's non-for-profit organization for most of the housing and the housing projects that were going on in Vancouver. On May 8, the government released a scathing audit that documented those concerns, finding Ramsay, as head of the provincial organization that funds public housing, gave preferential treatment to the agency his wife ran. Under Ramsay's watch, Atira, which is the foundation that his wife was running, Atira's funding grew massively to $74 million in 2022, far higher than any other housing provider. And the housing that Atira as an organization was building was really bad, and it wasn't up to the standard of something the government should be providing for the people. People have even died inside of these facilities because of how badly constructed and badly managed they were. While highlighting the problems, the issues, and the connections between drug addiction, mental illness, and a lack of caring from a government that only wants to put up patchwork solutions to the real issues that now we all have to contend with, well, the documentary and Aaron Gunn do end up giving a solution, or at least highlighting a province that is trying to do something different, which is Alberta. And while there are some things Alberta has proposed that I do not agree with, like locking up drug addicts without them having committing any crime, well, the rehabilitation and the community centers and the community building, rather than just giving free drugs or decriminalizing drugs or the notion of safe supply, the solutions that Alberta has come up with and is going to try to implement are some that I think are at least worth a try, because what we're seeing in the rest of the cities in Canada is not really working. And things, crime, mental illness, and drug addiction and overdoses are only getting worse. Because, again, it all seems to stem from the bigotry of low expectations, where most people don't really expect drug addicts to amount to anything else than overdosing and dying. Instead of trying to really help them, rehab them, give them a space in society, give them a purpose, and make them a useful member of the community, well, we just now expect them to keep shooting up, keep doing crime, keep behaving the way they're behaving and not say anything about it, and maybe eventually one day they'll either die or the government can come in with the maid service and kill them themselves. And that, I think, is truly sad, because we should expect more from people, we should help them get there, and we should not just throw drugs at them and say, well, go at it.
So they're doing the same thing today that they are currently suing these companies for doing 10 years ago.
Except the drug's more powerful.
The drug is more powerful.
One of the main people that Aaron Gunn highlights, not only in this documentary but in other pieces he's done as well, is Marshall Smith. He is a man who has been homeless in the streets of Vancouver and addicted to drugs, but was able to come out the other side and is now the chief of staff of the Premier of Alberta. And I think we need more and more people like him, not just that have been given opportunities, but that have done so much with them and can now help those that are still in the situations that they found themselves in once, instead of people that have never experienced anything similar or just think that their solutions are the best ones, even though they've never really even had to think about a solution because they've never been in that situation before. If you're from Canada, it's really worth watching it, because it seems like nobody really wants to truly talk about what's going on, even though we all feel the effects of it, of destigmatizing drugs, of destigmatizing mental illness, and in turn, not really expecting much from the people that are truly suffering, and by extent, not really helping them. So watch the documentary, I'll link it down below and up here. And I'd also say watch the Vancouver one, because you will be able to see how in just 1 year things have gotten a lot worse. I'll also link them up here and down below. And if you're not from Canada, it's worth watching because maybe your governments might start thinking that this is a good idea and start implementing some of these policies as well. And maybe you can stop them from doing that and truly help the people that most need it in the way that is most useful and effective. For now, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.